I'm not good enough. I'm different, so I can't connect. And I'm too far gone and my problems are too big that I'll never be able to change. It's just who I am. And those beliefs keep us stuck. And because of those beliefs, it leads to the behavior. Some of us do drugs, some of us do other unhealthy things. So what I do is I address the beliefs.
Hey there. Thank you so much for tuning in to True Grit and Grace. I have my amazing friend Todd Sylvester with us today. Y'all, he is a mental fitness health coach, mentoring those struggling with addiction. He is a top podcaster. I had the honor of being on this podcast. I've got his book here. He is the author of I Am Recovered, a simple story of overcoming addiction, as well as an ebook called It's Time to Start Living. He is saving lives. He is a speaker. He's done over 1,200 talks. He is coached, I think it's like over 17,000 coaching sessions. He's got 32 years of sobriety. I admire him. I love this man. I love the work that he does and how he's changing lives. He's saving lives. So, Todd, thank you so much for being here. Welcome to the show.
Oh, Amberly, thank you so much for having me. And it was a true honor to have you on my show, and your story too. Just is so inspiring. And it's great to connect with you that way. And we're like-minded in that way as well. And just, it's an honor to be here and to be able to share my story with your listeners.
Oh, it's such an honor. And so I have to just tell y'all, he's been so patient. So I was actually supposed to be flying to Salt Lake City today, and I was
Yeah.
excited. I was going to meet him in person. I was going to go to his studio and we were going to record this. And then my event got canceled. And so then we had another time set up that got canceled. We tried to start the show and there was no sound. And I said, okay, this show is an episode. This episode really needs to get out there in the world because we've had all these obstacles and we're like, no, we are going to do this. And, you know, I know that there's somebody, maybe a lot of people out there struggling right now. Well, with one thing that I love that you call it the bully, you know, it's that inner critic, that bully that we have inside of us. And when we have any kind of addiction, that bully inside of us gets really, really loud.
Right.
But your story from being addicted to drugs, using drugs every day, to being clean and sober, and now helping other people develop the mindset, get sober, and find joy in life is just astonishing to me. Just mind blowing how many people that you've really saved their life. So I would love to know, especially because I've got daughters, one that's older, one that's only 13, and I feel like she's at about this age where kids start doing drugs. They start finding a way to find drugs, alcohol. And I have to tell you something, Todd, really quick. So my daughter has a track meet, her first track meet today. And she's like, Mom, can you give me some of that drink that you drink? Because I drink like a gut health drink and I have an energy drink, but it's all natural. It's plant-based. It doesn't have caffeine. But the fact that she's like, what is that like energy drink that you want? And I'm like, well, here's the gut health one. Here's the hydrate one. But there was, because I am, recovering, or I like that you say recovered. And I have that addiction thing in me, whether it's being a workaholic or, I was addicted to alcohol. I think, oh gosh, she's kind of got that. Ooh, I want to do more. What's the quick fix for that? It made me think maybe it's just the addict in me that thinks like, ooh, does she have that going on? And she doesn't, but the protective mama bear in me is like,
For sure.
thought about that. That crossed my mind. And so how old were you when you started taking drugs or drinking or started? How old were you?
Yeah, I took my first sip of alcohol when I was 11 years old.
Wow.
I didn't get drunk, but I fell in love with kind of the rush of it. I knew it was wrong, and that's kind of like opened up the door. I grew up around where my family drank and partied, and I have, my mom struggled with addiction, so it was just kind of what I knew as a kid. And so, you know, when my parents, both of them worked, me and my brother would go behind the wet bar and grab some, I don't know, vodka or whatever we got our hands on at that time. And we would just take a couple sips. I didn't get drunk, but I don't know what it was, but I learned at a very young age, Amberly, that I had this all or nothing mentality. And, when I do something, I'm all in, good or bad. And obviously if it's towards something good, it's a good thing, but it can also be very destructive. And that just kind of opened the door at that time in my life to that world. And so, yeah, I was pretty young, obviously.
And then, but you played basketball. You had a love for basketball. And
Yeah.
how old were you when you really started to fall in love with sports and basketball?
Yeah, great question. So, that was kind of our religion in our family. We played sports. I played every sport under the sun. I loved it all. I loved growing up. I loved Saturdays because it was always game day, growing up as well. But when I was about sixth or seventh grade, I I decided I wanted to focus just on basketball. That was like my passion, my love. And so I just in my mind dedicated my time and effort to being the best basketball player. At that age I had dreams of getting a college scholarship. And when you're that young, you're thinking, okay, I want to play in the pros, so you have all these dreams and aspirations. And I was a really scrawny, short kid, so I knew I was going to have to work really, really hard. And so I was practicing 2 or 3 hours every day, and I didn't
Wow.
miss a day. If it snowed, I would go shovel off the basketball court on the side of my house, and I would play outside in the cold. I was obsessed with it. And so yeah, basketball was my passion. And
Now
so
that's
that
grit
yeah.
right there. Like
Yeah.
you were like, I know I'm a little smaller, I'm a little scrawny,
Yeah.
but I can work really hard. Like
Yeah.
there was something inside you that knew that I can work hard. So I might have to
Yeah.
work twice as hard. I might have to shovel
Right.
away the snow so I can play. But that is really grit. That developed your grit at a young age.
Absolutely. Yeah. I really, looking back on it now, yeah, for sure. Like I've just kind of lived my life that way. And now that I focus it towards good things, it's been a really an amazing blessing. But back then, when you're a kid, you don't know how to handle those kind of things. And I just I was going down the wrong paths, which I didn't even realize that. And it opened up a really scary world to me later on.
Well, how old were you when you tried your first drug and what was it?
So yeah, so that's kind of where it starts. So when I was, so my goal, this will be important for your listeners, was to make the freshman team in high school. So that was my goal, and I'm practicing, like I said, 2 or 3 hours every day. I try out for the team, I make the team, and there was like 18 kids on the team, which meant I didn't get to play very much. I'd get in at the end of the game if we were killing the team, that kind of thing. And it just, it was actually really frustrating. I was like, man, I want to play more, but it just fueled my desire to play even, practice even more. And that's what I did. I was just like I said, I was obsessed. So after my freshman year, after the season was over, there was like a month left of school. It was in the month of May. I had a friend of mine invite me to go to his with his family to a place called Bear Lake, and it's a place here in Utah where a lot of people go to for vacation. And so I went up with him and his family, and as we pull into the campsite, everyone gets out of the car. My friend holds me back and says, "Hey, wait a minute, stay in here." And I'm like, "What's going on?" He goes, "Just hold on." As the family walked away from the car, he grabs his backpack and he pulls out a quarter ounce of marijuana. And for your listeners, that's a sandwich bag full, basically. And I didn't even know what it was. I'm like, "What is that?" He goes, "It's marijuana." And he goes, "We're going to smoke this." And I'll never forget. He says, "You're going to love it." And I'm not kidding you. We smoked that entire bag in the next 4 days, and I fell in love with it. And that all or nothing mentality kicked in. And I said to myself, I'm
Mm.
going to smoke this the rest of my life. And little did I know the destructive path that was going to lead me down, but I didn't know any different. And then a week later, I had another friend of mine whose parents were out of town, and they asked me if I asked one of my family members to get us some beer for a party. And so I asked this family member. They ended up buying us 10 cases of beer, a bunch of little freshmen,
10
10 cases of
cases
beer.
of
And
beer?
yeah. And
Dang.
yeah, and we were thinking,
Talk
oh man,
about go big or go home.
that's what it
Wow.
was. Yeah. And we thought, oh, how cool is this? And I drank so much. That was the first time I got really wasted and drunk. And I drank so much that night that I blacked out. I don't even remember half the night. And the next
Mm.
day, my friends were like, Todd, you were so crazy. And I got to point this out. I was a really shy kid. And I guess I came out of my shell. I was talking to girls, which I was always afraid of. And I was doing things that I would never normally do. And as they're telling me this, it was feeding my ego. I'm sitting there going,
Wow.
wow, they accept me. This feels good. And that's when I said, okay, I'm going to smoke every day. I'm going to drink every weekend from that point forward. And that's what I started doing. I'm still practicing basketball 2 or 3 hours every day. And that just became my life. And so, like I said, basketball was still my passion. Between my freshman year and my sophomore year, I grew 7 inches, which was really
Wow.
good. 7 or 8 inches, which is really good for basketball, right?
Yeah.
um, and I ended up making the sophomore basketball team, played some varsity. We ended up taking first in state. I led the whole sophomore team in every category. I My junior year, we took second in state. I led the team in every category. And then my senior year, I was voted team captain with 2 other guys, and we took first in state again. And I just
Wow.
had this really good run. Things were going well, but to go back to my sophomore year is when things really started to change. I started doing every drug I could get my hands on.
So
Back then,
you were like almost living like this double life where
for sure.
you were this athlete and on one side, like very like it was feeding your ego to make the team, make captain,
Absolutely.
do so well. And I will share with you that I got kicked off the basketball team the
Oh,
first
really?
game. I sucked. I was so bad. They're like, you know what? You might be tall, but you suck. So don't ever come back. And that was the church basketball team.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
Don't ever come back here. Okay.
Oh, man.
But I love the way that you're talking about, smoking marijuana. Like, I'm going to smoke this the rest of my life, and just that
Mhm.
feeling of that it
Yeah.
gave that shot of courage
Yep.
that alcohol gave you. You have in your book in chapter 6, um, drugs take you to hell, diagnosed as heaven.
Yeah.
And it's so true. Like when you think about it, it's like, oh,
Yeah.
this is awesome. I can talk to girls. I can
Yep.
still play like a superstar on the basketball team. And it works until it doesn't. It is hell.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You think everything's fine. And then all of a sudden you realize you've walked yourself right into hell. And that's what eventually happened. And,
It's a
my,
gateway. Like I think
oh, yeah.
marijuana and alcohol is a gateway to other things. It can be anyway. So then
No, it
what
absolutely
what were
is.
some of the other things that you started trying? Because it like this time were you like, oh, I always had this healthy fear, still do, of drugs. Like I've never
Uh,
tried Coke. I've never
right.
tried any hardcore drugs except for what doctors induced me with after my accident. Those are some
Yeah.
pretty hardcore stuff. But
For sure. Oh,
I,
yeah.
I've always been really scared. And one of the reasons I'll admit this, I don't know if I've ever even told anybody this. I was scared to try Coke because
Mm.
I was afraid I might like it.
Oh,
Like,
yeah. Yeah.
so what drugs did you start doing that got
Yeah.
you into some trouble?
Yeah, back then was, it was really but speed. We called them cross tops. They were really popular back then. I mean, it's obviously an upper and it's a stimulant, and we would snort those. We'd take those.
You would
I did.
snort that?
Oh yeah,
Great.
yeah. We would do
Wow.
stuff. I mean, again, we were just, you just do crazy things when you're a kid. You think you're invincible, and we're just partying. I really did every drug under the sun. I started doing cocaine. I fell in love with that. We were doing mushrooms. We were drinking cough syrup. I mean,
Oh,
anything I could get
wow.
my hands on. And I started getting this reputation now as this partier, which also fed my ego. And I really wore it as a badge of honor. I just thought, hey, look how cool I am. I'm still playing basketball. Everything seems fine. And it wasn't until my senior year when things really started to take a turn. I noticed this voice in my head. I refer it to as the bully because it feels like a bully, pushes
Mm-hmm.
you around. And we all have this voice, even when we're little. It's that voice that tells you you're no good, you're different, so you can't connect. You'll never change. No one's going to want to be with you. And I was really, for whatever reason, my senior, that voice was loud in my head, and I walked around really depressed. At this point, I'm a full blown addict. I
Wow.
don't realize it though. I mean, again, my family, we never talked about these kind of things. I mean, it was never
Mhm.
talked about. I'm struggling. I was, I would play a couple really good games and then a couple really bad games in my senior year, and my family and my coaches were all going, "What's wrong?" And I'm like, "I don't know." And I
Wow.
didn't put it together with the drug use and the partying and the drinking and all that. And, and it
But
wasn't
it was
until,
starting to show up.
oh
It was
yeah,
starting to like it was
yep,
like the gig is up. It's
yep,
showing up in your
yep,
the way you're playing, probably in your
yep.
schoolwork, probably in your
Oh yeah,
relationships.
doing horrible in school. And I'd walk around, like I said, I'd walk around the hallways just depressed and having thoughts of ending my life, things like that. And things got really dark at times. And I felt only somewhat normal if I was partying, because then I was the cool kid, doing those kind of things. And, like I said, my senior year, we took state that year, and the state final game, I played the best game of my life. Everything just for whatever reason came together that night. I played the best game. We won by 20 points, and state championship was one of the best moments of my life. And then a week later, I got offered a full ride scholarship, and I was so excited because that was one of my goals. I wanted to get a college scholarship. And so here I've got this scholarship in hand, and it's the end of my senior year, and I'm thinking, okay, it's the end of my senior year. I've already got the scholarship. And so I'm going to party like I've never partied before in my life. And I'd like to share one example with your listeners of how bad things got, not to glorify it, but so they understand how bad things got for me. We were at a party. I think it was a week before graduation, and we're all drinking. We invited the whole senior class, and it was just packed with people. And one of my friends pulls out his beer bong. We had a beer bong that, and it's just it's a device that you can lift over your head to shoot, any liquid down your throat in seconds. And so we
Mm,
got in this big circle at this party, and everyone's going to try to outdo everybody. You're going to
mhm.
have one beer, the next person's going to try to do two, and the next person will try to do three. And it was just going around the circle, and I'm at the end.
Oh.
And I thought, when it gets to me, I'm going to blow everyone away. Again, feeding my ego. I want everyone to think, look how crazy Todd is. Well, it gets to me, and I pour a fifth of vodka in there.
Oh God.
Yeah. And my buddy next to me goes, don't do that. And I didn't even hesitate. I lifted it up over my head,
Oh my God. Oh
and
my
I drank a
gosh.
fifth of vodka in 2 seconds. And that's the last thing I remember.
Oh,
I woke up.
you could have
Uh,
died.
oh, yeah. So I didn't know it then, Amberly, but my blood alcohol level would have been 0.51. Lethal is 0.42. Yes, I should have died. Um, I didn't wake up until the next evening with my friends reviving me at 6 p.m. the
Oh my
next evening.
gosh.
And I woke up to one of the most pathetic scenes. I'm covered head to toe in blood. I was puking blood all night, all day.
Oh
I
my
was,
goodness.
and I'm in my friend's
They
living
didn't
room
take
holding.
you to the hospital?
Oh no, they were all wasted too. And I would have done the same thing they did. I hate to admit it. I would have, they're just thinking, oh, let them sleep it off. I would have done the same thing, just to be
Oh
totally
my
honest.
gosh.
And you don't think
Wow.
that way when you're partying with your buddies. You just don't.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, but I woke up, covered in blood, and I'm in my friend's living room holding a toilet seat. And again, one of the most pathetic scenes you could ever see. And again, my friends were there saying, that's the craziest thing we've ever seen. And again, feeding my ego. And at this point, though, Amberly, I'm a complete mess. I'm depressed. I'm suicidal. I hate who I am. And a few weeks later, you think this would have slowed things down. Things just got worse. Well, a few weeks later, after I had graduated, I started practicing with the team I got the scholarship with. And as we were practicing, about 2 weeks into it, the coach pulls me into his office, and all he said to me is, "What's going on?" And right when he said that, I knew I was in trouble, because I wasn't
Mm.
playing well mentally, spiritually, physically. I'm a complete mess. And I go, "Oh, coach, I know I'm not playing well. I will try harder. I will do better. I apologize." And he goes, "Todd, there's kids who have walked on who want this more than you by the way they're playing. And I hate to do this, but I'm taking away your scholarship."
Oh
And
gosh.
when that happened, Amberly, I'm not kidding you. I literally get on my knees in this guy's office, and I go, "Please, please give me another chance." And I'm getting emotional. I'm tearing up. And he goes, "I'm sorry, Todd, the decision's already been made." And so
Mm.
that's when I went off the deep end, like really went off the deep end. I just became this angry drunk at that point. and I would punch holes in the wall. I'd pick fights with people. I'm not a fighter. I'd pick fights with people. I'd throw chairs through windows. I was a complete and utter mess at that point in my life. Because you know how important identity is. My identity then was, if you were to ask me, who are you? I would have said basketball player.
Mm-hmm.
And when that felt like it was going away from me, I just thought, oh, I mean, it was a scary, scary thought. And I ended up trying out at several other colleges, got cut from every single one of them. And then I found myself living in a home with five other guys that we were attempting to go to school and college, but we weren't going to class. We were just partying, and this house was nasty. We didn't clean it. I mean, it was. I want to mention this because this is an important principle that I have learned, that our outer world mirrors our inner world.
Mm-hmm.
This house was an outward manifestation of my inner world, and so, I mean, people would pee in the corners. We'd throw beer bottles.
Really?
Yeah, we'd throw beer bottles against the wall and let them shatter. We wouldn't clean up the glass. We never cleaned it. Mold everywhere. I mean, it was nasty. I mean, it's the best word I can use to describe it. But this was like, again, an outward manifestation of my inner world. I was a complete mess, and this house represented that. And so it was a Thursday. I'll never forget it. I'm drinking, and reality hits me that basketball's over. You're never
Mm.
going to play in college. And that reality was so scary. And that voice in my head was like, who practices 2 or 3 hours every day since sixth grade to do this?
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, and that's when I had planned my suicide.
Yeah, I read that in your book that you were like,
Yeah.
you had a gun, you were gonna
Yep.
commit
Yes.
suicide, and then who helped you at that moment? I mean, we have
Yeah.
to be
This is,
willing to help ourselves, but how did you get through that moment? Because I was in a place too where I was like, oh, I
yeah.
don't want to I can't keep living like this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there is gift in desperation. We all hit whatever our rock bottom is. I mean, you would have thought, people go, oh, throwing up blood on a floor in the living room, holding a toilet seat in the living room, that's
Yeah.
rock bottom. But everybody's rock bottom is different. And
Yeah.
only we know when we've hit that rock bottom where like it's time, this is it, time to
Yeah.
climb up.
Yeah.
How did you reach out for help? What did you do at that point?
Yeah. So it really, at that point, I felt hopeless because, my mom was addicted to opiates. My dad was a drinker. All my friends partied. I honestly felt hopeless. I was like, there's nowhere to turn. And so that's why I planned I was going to end my life. So this was a Thursday. On the weekends, I would go home. So I was living away from home, like I said, in that house with that nasty house. But I'd come up to where, I grew up in, and I would work as a bartender on the weekends. And so Friday, it's now Friday, and I'm heading home to go end my life because I knew where the gun was. I had it all planned out, and I'm getting ready to get on the freeway entrance. And where I was living, right next to the freeway entrance, is the school I was attempting to actually go to class. And me and my friends would always go sit in the lunchroom here at this college, and we sit at the same table every lunch hour. We would sit and check out girls and gossip and everything that you do as kids. And for whatever reason, before I got on the freeway, I thought, you know what? It was lunchtime, and I thought, you know what? I'm going to go in there and sit there almost like a last goodbye to my friends. And so I go there. I'm sitting at this table with all my friends. Everyone's just talking. I'm not talking to anyone. I'm just in my own head thinking about what I'm going to go do. And I literally am just sitting there. I didn't say hi to anyone, and I'm just doing my own thing and thinking about those things. And there was these two girls, these two religious girls that were sitting next to me. And these two girls, for whatever reason, loved to come sit at our table. And they were always inviting us to go to church and this, and we were always, I was so mean. I hate to say this, but I was so mean to these girls. I just feel like I'd rip on their religion. I'd rip on God. I didn't believe, I wasn't raised religious at all. And so I it just bugged me that these girls would sit at our table, to be totally honest. And I think what bugged me is they seemed so happy and I was miserable, and I was just like
Mm.
projecting it onto them. Well, this particular day when I'm going to end my life, I'm just sitting there and I overhear these two girls talking about fasting and prayer. Never heard that before. I didn't even know what it was. And for some reason, the word fasting just hit me in the heart. I was like, what is that? And I'm just sitting
Mm.
there still trying to hear their conversation. They're talking about fasting and prayer. And I'm like, what is that? And I didn't dare say anything in front of everybody. So these two girls get up to head to their class, I'm assuming. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to go ask them. And I get up and I'm following them and they're walking away from me. And I'm nervous. I'm like, maybe I won't. And then I
Mm.
finally tap them on the shoulder. They turn around and I said, they go, hey, what's up? And I said, were you guys just talking about fasting and prayer? And they're like, yeah, why do you want to know? Because they're probably
Oh.
thinking I want to rip on them again or something. And I go, no, I'm
Oh.
serious. Like, I really want to know. I have no idea what that even is. Will you explain that to me?
Mm-hmm.
So they said in our religion, we fast once a month where we start with a prayer, we go the whole day without food and then or water or drink, and then we end with a prayer. And as they're telling this to me, Amberly, I'm going, what is the point? I thought this is ridiculous. And I asked the girls, I said, what's the point? And I'll never forget it. A girl points in my face and says, if you want help from God. And I got to be honest with you, it just hit me like what went through my
Wow.
mind, Amberly, was, is there a God and would God help me? That's what, because again, I didn't grow up believing in God. I didn't
Yeah.
not believe in God. I was kind of agnostic. I was right down the middle. I didn't know either way.
Yeah, but you're probably like, I need help. Like,
Oh, yeah.
I need help. Is there, maybe
Yeah.
God can help me?
Yeah. And that's where that desperation was. I was like, maybe this might work. And so I just told the girls thanks and I walked away. And as I walked away, I thought, you know what? I'm not going home. I'm not going to go be a bartender this weekend. I'm going to stay down here in the nasty house and I'm going to try this. I'm going to fast and pray. So
Wow.
now Saturday comes and the girls said, start with a prayer. I knew what prayer was. I never prayed, but I knew what it was. So I go into this teeny little coat closet because I didn't want my roommates to see what I was doing. And it's so small with coats in it that I literally have to get on my knees. and
Oh,
and as I'm on my knees, all I said was, God, if you're there, I need help. That's all I said. I'm not kidding you. And for the first time since Bear Lake, I didn't smoke a bowl. I didn't pop a pill. I didn't snort a line of Coke. I didn't have a drink. And
wow.
I don't know if any of your listeners have ever fasted before, but you get a little cranky sometimes, a little hangry, right? And I was really in a bad mood. Even my roommates were like, "What's up with you?" And I'm like, "Nothing," because I didn't want to tell them what I was doing.
Yeah.
I made it till about noon. You're supposed to go all day, I think, at the time. I didn't know at the time, and so I made it till about noon. And they said end with the prayer, so I went back into that closet and I got on my knees again, and I just said, "God, I did this fast. If you're there, I need your help." And I waited. And being naive, I thought, okay, if God's real, he's going to show up. And I just
Mm.
sat there. And I felt like I sat there forever. It was probably just a couple minutes. I was very impatient. Nothing happened. I actually was really, really disappointed and I got wasted. I just got wasted and I was depressed. I was still thinking about ending my life, but for whatever reason, this kind of kept me from doing that. And this went on for the next month. And then I get a random phone call a month later after the fast, and it's from a friend of mine who I played basketball with it in my high school. His name was Rich. He went on to play basketball at UC Davis. He was a really good kid. He was a kid that he was a church going kid, a faith going, very faithful person in that realm, and great kid. Anyway, he was now married. He was done with school and stuff. He gives me a call out of the blue, and he goes, "Hey Todd, where are you at these days?" I said, "I'm down here in Orem, Utah." And he goes, "I'm down here too." He goes, "I'd love to catch up. Would you be willing to come over to my place?" I said, "Sure." And I thought that was weird. I hadn't talked to him since high school. And so, but I thought, okay, it'd be cool to catch up with him. But as I'm driving over there, I'm going, man, this is going to be awkward. I haven't seen him for a while. He probably has no clue what a mess I am. Right.
Oh, yeah.
So I get there, I knock on the door. He opens up the door. We go in, we sit down. He's got a real serious look on his face. And I thought, that's weird. And I kept going, is everything okay? He's like, no, everything's fine. And we just start talking weather talk, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then he starts saying all these good things about me, Amberly. He's like, Todd, you're a good person. You're going to help so many people in your life. You're going to make a difference in this world. And when you don't believe compliments, you tend to just go, hey, oh, whoa, it feels uncomfortable. I was
Mm-hmm.
so uncomfortable. And I finally stop him and I said, hey, I don't know why you're saying all these good things about me, but my life's a mess. So I'd appreciate it if you'd stop. And he
You
goes,
said,
Todd.
wow.
And then he goes, Todd, he goes, I didn't go to work today because I have to share a message with you. And I'm like, what's going on? And again, I'm just puzzled. And he goes, and I can tell he's nervous. And he takes this deep breath and he just goes, Todd, the Lord came to me last night and says, we need you on our side today. And I don't know how to explain it, Amberly. I felt this feeling from head to toe. And what I can describe it now is I just felt love.
Every
It was
time I
just,
talk to you, I cry.
I
Oh,
know it was so surreal. I was going, and in my
wow.
head, I'm going, is that an answer to my fast? So I tell Rich, I go, I fasted about a month ago for help. And Rich gets in my face and goes, this is your help. And I was like, oh my gosh. And we're sitting there in this
Wow.
silence and I'm blown away. And I'll be honest with you, as good as it felt,
Yeah.
it also felt, it didn't feel like I deserved that, if that makes sense. I was like, I
Yeah.
almost was like, oh my, this is kind of scary feeling, even though it was good. It's just so awkward. And, and so, and, and, and I want to keep going if that's okay, Amberly, because there's a
Yeah.
big part of this story that I want your listeners to hear because it was amazing. Like as amazing as that was, it gets even crazier.
Like, boy, you just had to be patient and trust,
Yeah,
that
for sure.
and a lot of times we want things to work out the way that we want them to
Right.
work out and we want instant gratification. I think especially when you've been an addict, like you want instant gratification.
Yeah. Oh
And
yeah,
so you're
for
learning,
sure.
okay, there's delayed gratification.
Yep.
I have to trust this process, like really have faith and keep that little bit of hope.
Yeah.
And it might show up a little differently than you
Yeah.
expected or planned, but that there is a God that's taking care of you and look
Yeah.
and waiting for you to ask for help.
Yeah. Yeah. It was
So
amazing. And
yeah, then what happened after that?
so so I look at him basically and say, well, now what? And I told Rich, I go, you have no idea. My life's a complete mess right now. And he goes, I want you to go meet with this clergyman and I want you to kind of tell him everything you've been doing. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. And he goes, Rich is one of those guys where we're like, no, you're going to do this. And so he gets on the phone. He spends seriously, like he's on the phone for like 45 minutes. I'm just sitting there waiting for him. And he tracks down this guy who was a clergyman in the neighborhood that my family grew up in. And he tracked this guy down. I don't know how he did it, honestly. And he tracks him down, gets me an appointment for the next day. And he goes, okay, I've got you an appointment. And I'm like, why do I need to go see this guy? And he goes, I want you to tell him everything you've been doing. And I'm like, I can't do that. And Rich grabs me by the collar and says, you better show up.
Yeah, you
And
know
I go,
what? It was just that's like getting you to look at kind of your defects, your character defects, admit to
yeah,
someone what you're doing, who you've
yeah,
hurt, what you've done that's
yeah,
wrong. It's like doing a fifth step in the 12-step program. It's like
yeah,
doing a fifth step, and that's where you admit to somebody your
yeah,
wrongdoings. And I just had written down, and I just read this in a book yesterday where I had written down, if you don't do a fifth step, you will drink a fifth or something like that. Like you
yeah,
have to
right.
be brutally honest. And that's how you get to stay sober, is
Yeah,
being completely honest. So that sounds like that's what he was kind of getting you to do. Like go talk to somebody and just share. And I feel like so often we stuff those feelings down and we stuff that
yeah,
pain down and it just magnifies it and it will come out
yeah.
over and over. And so, wow. So you went and showed up to this clergyman to
Yeah.
tell him?
Yeah. So I show up and, in the religion that was, they call him a bishop, a clergyman, whatever your listeners understand, but he was a bishop. And I go and I think I'll go there. I'll spend 5 minutes there. I'll listen to what he has to maybe tell me, and then I'm out of there. Well, I go there, and this guy, his name's Bishop Taylor, and he's one of my heroes to this day. What I didn't realize is he ended up becoming my rehab, and so I go sit with him, and he just says, "Hey, tell me what's been going on," and doesn't say another word. And so I tell him kind of what happened with me and Rich. Long story short, I end up unloading on this dude, and I spend 3 hours in this guy's office, and I tell him everything I've been doing: the drugs, the abuse, the um, the manipulation I was doing, the things I was doing with girls, the money I was stealing from my parents. I mean, I just unloaded everything on him, and I'm thinking this guy is going to throw me out of his office, right? Well, he goes, and I'm so glad you brought up honesty, because he goes, when I got done, he goes, okay, I got 4 things I want you to do. He goes, number one, he goes, can you say a prayer like you did in that closet? Can you do one prayer a day like that? Do you think? I'm like, yeah, I can probably do that, right? And then he hands me some scriptures, and he goes, can you read one verse a day? Do you think? And I literally, Amberly, I'm like, what's a verse? You
Wow.
got to remember, I'm an infant in this. He literally opens it up and goes, this is a verse. He goes, I don't even care if you understand it, but this is a verse. And I go, yeah, I could probably read one of those a day. And then he goes, I want to meet with you every week for a year. And I'm like, I can't do that. And he goes, we'll take it a week at a time, but I want to meet with you. And then he goes, the fourth thing, he goes, I want you to be honest with me. And I go, well, I just told you everything, but what do you mean? He goes, when we meet, I need to know if you used, if you got high, if you manipulated, if you stole anything. You just need to be honest with me. And he taught me what you were just saying. Honesty kills bad behavior. I say this
Mm-hmm.
to my clients all the time. If you're honest with yourself, you'll never relapse, ever. And so this guy taught me the power of honesty. And so I start meeting with this guy every week. And it takes me 8.5 months, Amberly, before I can say I made it 3 days clean this week. So I've been meeting
Wow.
with 8.5 months. Now I'm still a bartender, which is not a good idea if you're trying to stop drinking, right?
Yeah.
and and this is the part of the story that I really want to get into, if that's okay.
Yeah, of
Um,
course.
so as a bartender, I would get tips from the waiters and waitresses because I'd prepare their drinks for their customers. And then
Mm-hmm.
anyone that would sit at the bar, I'd make their drinks as well. And I was really good at getting tips because I'd always give the first drink free. And I knew if I did that, I'd get a big tip. So I'd manipulate them and giving me a tip. Well, I'd get a bunch of change, quarters, nickels, and dimes, and I'd keep it in the cup holders of my car. And I had about $40. And this is 32 years ago. That's a lot of money
Mm-hmm.
back then. And I'd use that money to buy pot. I'd use it to fill my car up with gas. I mean, so I'd throw this change in there. Well, at this 8.5 month mark where I made it 3 days clean, that voice in my head still going strong. You're pathetic. You're no good. You're never going to get clean. You're never going to do this. And again, I'm still struggling. Well,
Mm-hmm.
I'm driving out of my neighborhood on a Saturday. It's a beautiful sunny day. And as I'm driving out of my neighborhood, out of the corner of my eye, I see this little girl selling lemonade. No big deal. I drive right on past. And then I had this impression come over me, Amberly, that said, turn around and give her all the money in your car. And I
Wow.
thought, wow. I thought, man, I thought I got a lot of money in here. That'd be pretty amazing. So I literally flip my car around. I pull up, roll my window down. There's this cute little girl, fourth grade girl sitting there. And I go, how much for a cup? She said 25 cents. And I said, I'll take one. So she pours it, hands it to me. I set it on my dashboard. And then I tell this little girl to cup her hands like this, right in front of her.
Uh-huh.
And I start scooping all this money into her hands. And this girl starts freaking out.
Wow.
I'm like, hold on, I got more. She's getting emotional. She's like, no way, thank you so much. I'm like, no, you hold on, I got more. It takes me like 10 scoops to get all this money. And I'm getting every penny I can find. And the last scoop, she throws it onto her little table out there and she takes off into her house. And I'm thinking, she's going to go tell her parents some dude just gave her $1 million, right? Well, as I pull away, Amberly, I start to cry like I've never cried before in my entire life. Have you ever cried so hard, Amberly, that you feel like you're cleansing your soul?
Oh yeah.
This was one of those soul cleansing cries. And I literally have to pull my car over. I throw it in park. I put my face in my hands and I just sob. And I am sobbing so hard. It's as if all this evilness was coming out of me.
Oh,
And in that moment, I loved who I was. In that moment, I felt like I mattered. In that moment, I wanted to be
wow.
clean. This lit my soul on fire. And this is why I have this quote on my wall that you can see behind me. It's by Ferdinand Foch. It says, the most powerful
Oh,
weapon on earth is the human soul on fire. I was on fire. And that
oh,
all or nothing mentality, Amberly, kicks in. And I thought, if that little girl's there next Saturday, I'm giving her
making her
all my
cry.
money that I earned as a
Oh,
bartender. So next Saturday, on purpose, I drive by where she was before, and sure enough, she's out there and she sees me. and she recognizes me, and she's like,
She's
oh my
probably
gosh.
so excited.
She was so pumped. And I give her like $35 in quarters, nickels, and dimes. I do this every Saturday for the next 2.5 months. And I give
Wow.
her all my money that I'm earning as a bartender, ironically. And every time I pull away from that lemonade stand, I just start to cry like I've never cried before. It was like this cleansing process I was going through. Now, this is where everything comes together. I decide, so it's been 8.5 months. I make it 3 days clean. 2.5 months after that, giving her all my money every Saturday, right? I decide I'm going to go to church for the first time. I'm going to go for the first time, check it out. So I go to church. I don't know anybody. I'm scared to death. I'm sitting in the very back corner and I'm thinking I'm going to stay for just a couple minutes and then I'm going to leave.
And what kind of
Well,
church was it?
it was an LDS church,
Okay.
Christian church.
Uh-huh.
And again, I just thought I'm going to go see what it's all about. I don't know. I mean, I wanted to connect, somehow. And anyway, I'm sitting in the back corner and I'm looking around, you're people watching, right? And I look on the other side of the congregation and there's that little lemonade girl with her mom, and she recognizes me and she's waving, going to her mom. There's the guy. She's pointing at me and the mom's waving. My heart starts
Aw.
racing, right? Well, I decide to stay. And when church gets over, they come walking over towards me. And again, my heart's pounding and the mom's crying. And then mom comes up, Amberly, and gives me this hug. She's in my ear and she says, Todd, thank you so much for what you've done for my daughter. And I said, you have no idea what this has done for me. And she goes, oh, no, you don't understand. She was saving for a trampoline. You put her over the top. She got her trampoline. She thinks you're like
Oh.
the greatest. And I said, no,
Oh.
again, you have no idea. This has been for me. And then the mom goes, we have a favor to ask you. And I'm going, what? And she goes, on Wednesday, there's a daddy daughter date. Would you take her as your date? And I'm like, what? And I said, what
Oh,
about her dad?
wow.
And she said, well, I was divorced from her dad when she was young. And she really wants to go. He's not in her life at all anymore. Would you please take
Wow.
her? And she's sitting there. Her name's Lindy. She's sitting there just staring at me. And I'm like, what am I going to say? No. And little does the mom know she's asking this drug addict alcoholic to take her fourth grade. She has no clue. She doesn't know me. She just thinks I'm some nice guy that's giving her money, which anyway, so I say yes. So anyway, Wednesday comes,
I
I go
was
pick.
thinking that's pretty trusting. Like
Oh
it's
my gosh.
really trusting. Hey,
Yeah.
you
It's kind
stranger
of
on
a,
the street. Yeah.
yeah,
Like
it's kind of a funny
nowadays, I don't know if
story.
you do that.
Oh, you wouldn't.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I picked this little girl up on Wednesday. I take her up Big Cottonwood Canyon here in Salt Lake City, and we're up at a picnic site, and we're all up there with their dads and their daughters. I don't know anyone. I don't even know her. I'm sitting there going, why did I say yes to this? And we start playing games, right? And one of the games was, how well do you know your daughter? How well do you know your dad? Like favorite color, favorite food. And I look at her and I go,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, we can't do that. And she, I kid you not, she says, let's guess. I kid you not, Amberly. Had I not been there, I wouldn't have believed it. We almost get every answer correct. We're high fiving each other. Everyone's looking at us thinking we're cheating because they know she's not my daughter. Again, I know
Wow.
nobody. I know nobody. And then I have this thought. I'm used to waking up hungover with puke all over me, doing some of the most horrible things the night before. And here I am with this pure innocent girl, and we're having hot dogs and Kool-Aid. Well, they gather everyone in to say a blessing on the food, which I thought was weird. I'm like, man, is there something wrong with the hot dogs? Why would you bless hot dogs? I thought that was weird. So anyway, they gather in and everyone's folding their arms. So I'm just, again, I know nothing. I'm following along. I fold my arms, and this guy just says a simple little prayer to bless the hot dogs and Kool-Aid. But in that prayer, Amberly, as I hear this voice in my head that says, Todd, you're in the right place, doing the right thing. You made an impact on this girl's life forever that she'll never forget.
Wow.
And I love you. And I lose it. I lose it in this prayer. I feel this love like I've never felt before in my life. And I just start bawling my eyes out. And, the prayer gets over and the dudes look at me like, man, it's just hot dogs and Kool-Aid, man, relax. and Lindy's like, are you okay? I'm like, no, I'm so okay. These are happy tears. And in that moment, Amberly, is when I said, I will never, ever drink or do drugs again. And I will do my best to be honest and to have integrity and to be
Yeah.
accountable. And I'm going to dedicate my life to helping other people. And that was 32 years ago. I've been clean
Wow.
and sober for 32 years. And one last thing, and then I'll be
That's it.
quiet.
That's no, I mean, I've been
One,
crying the whole time. If you're watching this on YouTube, you're like, oh my gosh, Amberly just hadn't stopped crying. But
but one last thing.
it's just a mirror. It's a miracle how
It's a miracle.
everything fell into place at the right time. You driving by and seeing the girl with a lemonade
Yep.
stand. Now I'm curious, do you still talk to her to this day? Do you know who?
Yes. Yeah. Lindy, she's actually my best marketer. She sends me clients all the time. We've stayed in contact all these years. She's an amazing woman doing
Wow.
amazing things. She calls herself a connector. She knows everybody. She's a friend to everybody. She truly is one of the most amazing people. She saved my life. Um, you know, when I decided I was going to get clean, I created a drug-free program, and I started going around to all the elementary schools here in the state of Utah, sharing my story, helping kids believe in themselves. And what happened from that is parents would come up to me and say, "My son or daughter loves your program. Would you meet with them one-on-one?" I didn't have a clue what I was doing other than I knew I wanted to help people. And I said, "Sure, I'll start meeting with them." And that's what started my, mental fitness coaching and life coaching. And I've been doing that for 32 years, and I haven't looked back.
Wow. I mean, your story is unbelievable. There's so many people that do have that need that mental strength, that emotional strength, that
Yeah,
resilience. And we all have that bully, and sometimes it can come out loud and mean.
absolutely. Yeah,
What are some of the things that you get people to kind of, because I do believe mindset is everything. And y'all, he's got a big, beautiful painting with a fish, a little goldfish with a shark fin on it that says mindset is everything. And I
yeah,
do believe that, whether it's overcoming addiction,
sure.
whether it's overcoming chronic physical pain,
Yeah,
or emotional pain, it starts with your mindset, really.
yeah,
What are some things that you can get people to do to help them shift their mindset and kind of tame that bully? And do
yeah.
you
Well,
ever really get rid of that bully?
the bully, you never really fully get rid of it, but you can definitely lock it up in a way that, because we all, have negative thoughts go through our head, but when you get to a certain point and you've worked on these things, you can crush it. But one of the things I start off with, and it's my favorite thing, and it's the greatest truth. I mean, anyone listening to this podcast right now, this is the greatest truth about you. And I actually have it. I think you even read it in your podcast when you're on my podcast. Maybe you didn't. I can't remember. Anyway, um, the thing I tell my clients, I actually have them read this. It's above my head. It's over here, and it says, "The most delightful surprise in life is to suddenly recognize there's nothing wrong with you." And
Mm,
when you see a heroin addict sitting across from me on day one, read that out loud, without fail, they start crying. And I'll say, "I bet you've never heard that before, have you?" And they said, never
mm,
heard that. And I said, "What if that's true? What if the most delightful surprise is there's nothing wrong with you?" And they can't fathom it. And
yeah.
so that's where I start. That's kind of I always throw that out in the beginning, and then I help them get to that point. And I also say, I really believe that our adversity and our addiction is the wake up call to our greatness. Because I look at what I'm doing now, I wouldn't be talking to you today had I not had that sip of alcohol when I was 11. I
Hmm.
mean, it all played a part into this very moment. And um, so I think I always like to start with the foundation that there's nothing wrong with you. It doesn't mean we don't have stuff to work on, but to your core, inherently, you're good.
Wow.
All of us are good. And if we can start believing that because it's the truth, it really does make a huge difference in moving forward in anything that you're dealing with.
And I
Yeah.
think that acceptance, radical acceptance of yourself
Yes.
is the first step. It's willing to
Yeah.
take a look at yourself and go, oh, and it really, for me, it was the road to not just recovery as far as from alcohol or addiction, it was a recovery to self-love,
Yeah.
um, to start to little by little love myself because I hated myself.
Yeah.
Um, And so, yeah, I think that's a powerful, powerful way to look at it. There's nothing wrong with you at the core, and that you're
Yeah.
lovable, that
Yeah.
you can start loving yourself, and that other people and God loves you.
Yeah.
That's so important. Now, do you in your tell us a little bit about your program and what it does, and is it all the different kinds of programs you have for different mindsets so people can spark that joy and have a life that they deserve? What are some of the steps that your program takes people through?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it really is this. What I've learned in 32 years is that we as human beings overcomplicate everything. We just do. Even recovery, we overcomplicate that whole process. And so what I do is I've simplified this program. And the biggest pushback I get when I explain this to someone, and I'll explain it here in just a second, is it can't be that simple, Todd. And what I've learned is the truth is it really is that simple. And
But well,
that,
one of my favorite mottos is keep it simple.
yeah, well, yeah,
Keep it simple. Like,
yeah,
don't overcomplicate. No, keep it simple. Because, yes, we
yeah,
like to overthink. We get that soundtrack going on in our
yeah,
head and we have to do all
yeah.
these things. And then we're like, screw it. But just keep it simple. But yeah, I want to hear how simple it is.
Yeah, so I really I'm passionate about belief systems because our beliefs dictate our behavior. So if so when I'm dealing with an addict, let's say, and they're slamming heroin, I don't have to tell them to stop slamming heroin. They already know that. What's the underlying belief that dictates that type of behavior? And it goes back to, a bunch of could be a bunch of things, but the top three I always hear is I'm not good enough, I'm different, so I can't connect, and I'm too far gone and my problems are too big that I'll never be able to change. It's just who I am. And those beliefs keep us stuck. And because of those beliefs, it leads to the behavior. Some of us do drugs, some of us do other unhealthy things. So what I do is I address the beliefs, because if you change the belief, then the behavior will change automatically. I don't need to tell you to stop doing that. Change the belief, it'll happen automatically. And it's so beautiful to watch. And so, one of the ways I do that is I teach a technique called the addictive voice recognition technique. It's actually a technique that every Olympic athlete uses as part of their training. And what this does is it helps you reshape your self image on a subconscious midbrain level. And what that means is when you do it on that level, it's permanent, lasting change. And and the reason why Olympians use it, one, it works because they wouldn't waste their time with it if it didn't work. And two, it's one of the most effective ways to change your self-image in a very simplistic way. And so that's a technique that I teach. And
Well,
then
let's
there's
have a little bit. We all need that. What's a little simple? Bring it
okay.
on. I want to
Well,
be
so
thinking like an Olympian.
all right. Well, let's do it this way then. If anyone listening to this, if you want to do this exercise, what I would challenge you to do is write down every negative thing you tell yourself. Now, this is not a fun assignment because it's going to bring up some feelings, probably some negative emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by this, I don't mean like, oh, I had a negative thought, I'm going to write it down. I want you to sit down and go, what are all the negative things? Go back to your childhood. See, I used to think I looked funny. That was one of the things I used to tell myself. And so on my list, I would put, I look funny. I'm not good enough. And you should hear some of these things that I get. I mean, if I can find it here really fast.
Oh gosh, I get things like for me, one of mine, a recurring one that I tell myself is I'm not smart enough.
Oh yeah. So there you go. That's your bully. So this
That's my
becomes
bully. And I
so
can look back and I can tell you exactly when that bully woke up and started talking to me.
absolutely. And everyone listening to this could do the same thing. And so come up with your list. And if you do it right, your list will be pretty long.
Oh
Okay.
gosh, I'm sure. I mean, I catch
Yeah.
myself. And a lot of times, you know what, Todd? People think I'm the most positive person,
Yeah. Yeah.
motivational, and
Yeah.
I'm like, no, I really work at it because sometimes that inner critic really comes out. Sometimes
Yeah.
I'm not positive, but I work on it every day. And yeah,
Yeah.
it seems like a lot of work. Like
Yeah.
last night, we just celebrated my 50th birthday party. Last night, I had a 50th birthday. My husband was so sweet. He surprised me. and
Oh, that's
had all my
awesome.
family together. And I was
Oh,
like,
great.
okay, well, I got to get going home. They're like,
Uh-huh.
well, it's only 9 o'clock. And I'm like, but I get up at 4:30 tomorrow morning. So I need to go sleep. And they're like, why do you get up so early? And it's because
Yeah.
I start my day off with some quiet time
Yeah.
to set my intention, to do a prayer, to gratitude. But now I'm going to add this, Todd. I'm going to add the negative things on a sheet of
Yeah.
paper that I tell myself. And then what do you
Yeah.
do?
And then you're going to flip it on another piece of paper where you add your name. So if the first one says I'm stupid, the next one would say I, Amberly, am brilliant. And then that becomes your affirmation list. And what's cool about that is you're now attacking the very negative things you're actually telling yourself, but you're going to say the opposite of them. And here's the technique. I call it recognize, refuse, replace. When you have a negative thought come through your mind, you need to
Oh, I like
recognize it,
that. Uh-huh.
right? So you recognize it. Oh, I just had that negative thought. Then you refuse it and you basically objectify it. There's the bully. I call it the bully. You call it whatever you want. There's the bully, and then you replace it by adding your name. So if the thought comes in, I'm stupid, I just recognized it. Now I'm going to refuse it. That's not me. And then you would say, I, Amberly, am brilliant. There's the technique. Recognize, refuse, replace. And I'll tell you, it is a game changer. And then
Mm.
that champion, I call it the champion list, all that positive stuff, that becomes your daily affirmations. And people say, oh, great, affirmations. Do they really work? Well, think about this. Everyone listening to this can sing the ABC song. How did you learn the ABC song? By repetition. It's the most effective way to learn anything. And what it does, it takes it from short-term memory to long-term memory. And you'll be able to sing the ABC song until you're, dead and gone. You can, because of that repetition. Repetition deepens the impression or creates the new belief system. And so affirmations do really work if we'll actually put in the time to do it. And so it's so simple that people won't do it. I'm serious.
Well, you know what? You're sitting here telling me this, and I have affirmations on a sticky note right here on
Uh-huh.
my computer.
Right.
And I don't read them every day. I
Yeah.
need to read them every day. It's here for a reminder. And then but you have to really commit, decide you're going to do it and be committed to
Yeah.
doing it
Yeah.
every day. I'm going to start. And I know affirmations work. They really do shift your mindset.
Well, there's a principle out there called the 2190 rule. And what that is it takes about 21 days to create a habit and it takes 90 days to create a lifestyle. So think about it. We can all brush our teeth, closing our eyes because we brushed our teeth well past 90 days. We can tie our shoe without looking. Why? Because we've done it well past 90 days. When you do these affirmations well past 90 days, they just become automatic, just like the ABC song. It's always there and you can just recall it any moment you want. And so that's where we have to be patient and make it through that transitional phase to get it into our long-term memory.
Mm. Well, what continues to inspire you to speak to youth and adult groups and do all, I mean, because you've got your podcast, you're speaking, you're
Mhm.
coaching. Where do you gather your inspiration?
Well, people like you, honestly,
Oh, I
seeing
paid
you
him to
over.
say that, y'all.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The check's in the mail. No, no, seriously. And I don't say that because we're just talking. Like I told you, I just shared your story to my group here at Wasatch Recovery, and they were blown away. I mean, it's
Mm,
people like you watching people come in with irrational belief systems and actually change them to the positive and changing their lives and seeing them, be hopeless and now they feel joyful and, and listening to stories like yours, Amberly. It's just like, man, this is what it's about. We go through hard times, but it wakes us up to our greatness. Think about your adversity you've gone through. It woke you up to your greatness. Look what you're doing. And
mm,
so watching that transform in somebody, there's no greater high on the planet than that. And, you know, I always say this, if you master the first 11 steps of AA, you'll drink again. If you master step 12, you'll never touch another drop. What's step 12? It's giving back and helping someone else. And so I'm just, when I had my life changed like it did, I just felt a responsibility that I'm going to give back the rest of my life. And it's the greatest high on the planet.
that's beautiful. Yeah, no, I'm not supposed to talk about like AA 12-step program, like one of the rules. And not, but I will say when I first decided to go, my husband was like, well, how much is that going to cost? I'm like, well,
Couple
it
hours.
doesn't cost anything. Like I put $1 in the basket, but like, doesn't, he goes, no, how much is it going to cost? How much do they want? And I'm like, no, it's not about that, but it is giving back. So, I was the greeter, the parking lot girl, the
Yeah,
coffee maker.
for
I'm
sure.
still a greeter at a Zoom meeting, thank
That's awesome.
goodness for Zoom.
For sure. Yeah.
But when you something that saves your life, yeah, you get to keep it by sharing what you were given so free. Like for me, giving my life back and my freedom just to find joy and everything, that's like I want to give back and do what I can. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that's beautiful. I'm excited that you have an app coming out, and I love
Yes.
things that you can do to really, like, I have my spiritual toolkit app that I use to like write down my gratitude list.
Right.
So I want to know a little bit about your app, because I think it's great for people to shift their mindset and just really
Yeah.
strengthen their mindset. So can you tell us, or is it top secret? Can you
No,
tell
no,
us a
it's
little bit about
no.
it?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for asking. It's called You're Okay Mental Fitness. It's a You're Okay Mental Fitness app, and it's geared towards, even, as young as junior high and high school kids, but for adults alike. And it's going to be, they're going to hear me and the principles that I've learned. It's going to help people who struggle with anxiety, depression, addiction, if they're trying to find purpose in life, if they just need a pick me up, if they're feeling suicidal, to be able to check in. Um, There'll be a weekly webinar with me every week with anyone that signs up on the app as part of it.
That's
And it's
amazing.
going to be amazing.
So
And
what day of the week is the webinar? Is it pre-recorded?
no, it's going to be live, and it's probably going to be on a Thursday night. So, but we haven't, got that, set in stone yet. But if your listeners go to You're Okay, YOUREOKAY.com, you can go in and actually put your name and email in there and submit, and then once it goes live, you can be part of our beta team. And if you want, you don't have to, but it'll let you know when the launch comes out, and you'll get to know more about me on my website, which is toddinspires.com as well.
Oh my goodness. I want to be part of that beta team.
Yeah.
I want
Yeah,
to
I'd
get to
love to.
connect with you on a weekly webinar. Are you kidding me?
That would be cool. I'd love to have you
Yes,
on.
but am I going to be like sobbing, crying? Every time I talk to you, I don't know why I cry every time, every
uh
time.
Well, no, you're kind, and I would love to have you be a part of this, Amberly, because again, I respect and love what you do and your words, and your expertise in what you do. So, but yeah, if they want to check it out, like I said, it'll be coming out. It probably won't be until about June, maybe 1st of July, but we're going strong, and I can't wait. It's gonna be fun.
That's incredible. So you guys can check the show notes if you're driving or you're outside running, exercising, whatever. All the information will be in the show notes. But also, Todd, where can they like connect with you? Where do you hang out the most? And also, y'all listen to his podcast. I have to say something. Your podcast, I have done hundreds of podcast interviews, and big ones too, big podcasts. Your podcast, I had more people reach out to me after I was on your podcast than any other podcast. I
Wow.
mean, so
Wow.
thank you. So
Wow, that means a lot.
yeah, I'm not kidding. Like more people reached out to me. So thank you for that. Tell people about your podcast, where they can listen, because you know what? This show, I really want to bring people on and share their
Yeah,
stories of recovery and resilience and how they've had that
sure.
struggle to success. But I also want to share like where else they can listen to amazing podcasts, because your
Thank you.
podcast is like, you've got a huge following of people who just love you.
Yeah,
So tell people where they can find your podcast, and also where they can find both your books,
sure.
and where to follow you, where you hang out the most on social media.
Oh, thank you so much. Yes. Well, the podcast is successful because I have people like you on the show. Honestly,
Oh,
I've had such amazing guests on, and I'm on every major platform, where you listen to your podcast. It's called a belief cast, all one word, belief cast. You can also look it under my name, Todd Inspires, as well. And it's on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, all the major platforms. You can also go check out beliefcast.com, and you can see all the guests. You'll be able to see Amberly's and listen to her podcast as well. It was amazing. And I have to admit too, I had so many people reach out to me. That was one of the best stories we've ever heard. And so that was
Oh,
amazing.
thank you.
People on Instagram, I'm at TS Inspires. So T for Todd, S for Sylvester, TS Inspires. You can DM me there, or you can check out my website at toddinspires.com. And then my books you can get on Amazon, and you can also get there from my website. But if you go to Amazon and just type in "I am recovered" or "It's time to start living," you can find those there.
You're amazing. I
Oh, thank you.
mean, seriously, and you've connected me with amazing people. And I actually first found you because my friend Tiff Peterson, who's in Salt
Yeah.
Lake, I think was at your studio or something, and she
Yep.
posted on your shoulder, and I was like, on her story. And for some
Yeah.
reason, I was like, who's this guy? And I just reached out to you on social media. I'm like, I want to know this guy. He's cool. And we connected, and now we're going to be friends for life. And
For
hopefully I'll
sure.
get to see you in person soon.
Yeah, I can't wait to meet you in person. And so I can't wait till you get up here. And yeah, Tiff Peterson, she's one of my favorite people. And
I love her.
you two remind me of each, you guys are like similar in so many ways, just amazing people.
Thank you. She sent
Yeah.
me a gift yesterday. So cool. I'm going to do this
Oh,
for somebody. She sent me like like a code to get a free tea or coffee or drink on her at like Starbucks. I'm like, that is the coolest thing ever. How'd you do that? So I'm like, she's always doing cool stuff. But yeah,
she
I'm
really
glad that I
is.
found you through her. And
Yeah.
but thank you for sharing your incredible, miraculous story, sharing
Thank
us
you.
some tips on how to really shift our mindset with those affirmations and
Yeah.
our just creating that champion list of affirmations. I'm totally going to do that. And I'll hold your book up one more time,
Oh, thank
y'all.
you.
I am recovered.
Thank
And
you.
thank y'all for tuning in. I appreciate you tuning into the podcast. And take a screenshot of this episode, whether you're listening on Apple or Spotify or you're watching on YouTube. Take a screenshot and tag us in your story, because when I see that, I share it in my story. So
Oh,
I appreciate y'all listening in. Todd, thank you again for being here.
thank you so much for having me, Amberly. You're amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I will see y'all next time.